one of the important features or things that you have to think about is the impact of discrimination in the community, because, and I really believe that a lot of the psychological problems we see in the transgender community are the results of chronic, repeated trauma. For some people, it's been happening since they were infants or little kids, that they have been repeatedly told they aren't who they are, who they say they are, and as they get older, they've been beat up, they've been harassed, they've been bullied, lots of things like that. So it's important, like I've said before, to pay attention to the political climate. The statistics from that recent study done by the National the Gay and Lesbian Task Force and the Transgender Law Center teamed up to do this study. They got 6,450 respondents. And what they found is that the discrimination for these folks is continuous. It's throughout their life, and it's across every spectrum of their life. That the combination of anti-transgender bias and persistent structural racism was especially devastating. So what they found was for people of color who are also transgender, the outcomes were much worse. They did much worse than in all aspects of health and mental health, and homelessness and jobs and all the rest of that than white people did. And of those folks, African American transgender folks did the worst of all. What we found was that respondents lived in extreme poverty. That sample was nearly 4 times more likely to have a household income of less than $10,000 per year compared to the general population. 41% of respondents reported attempting suicide compared to 1.6% of the general population. 55% of those who had lost a job due to bias. 51% of the population, for those who were harassed or bullied in school, or 51% were harassed or bullied in school. 61% had low household income or were victim of physical assaults, and 64% of those surveyed had been sexually assaulted. 90% of transgender people experienced harassment at work, which is huge. This is part of why ENDA is so important, and yet they're getting removed from that pretty regularly. Hopefully they're back in now. 26% have lost jobs, and many people hide or delay transition to avoid this possibility. This is particularly true of the aging population. People who have lost jobs were 4 times more likely to become homeless, to misuse drugs and alcohol, or to become incarcerated. So like 70% that were homeless or had lost jobs misused drugs and alcohol. They tend to engage in some illegal activities or other kinds of jobs, prostitution being one, as a way to support themselves, so that's how they end up being more likely to be incarcerated. 19% of the respondents had been denied housing. 55% of those who used shelters reported being harassed or turned away, and 29% of those people were turned away. So even when you're reaching out for help, there's nobody there that will take you in. 19% reported being refused medical care, and half said that they had uninformed doctors, and many had postponed care as a result. There's a lot of stress and anxiety about going to the doctors, particularly if your body is different. 43%, by the way, so we talk about the importance of family. 43% had maintained most of their family bonds, so families are not as bad as they've been made out to be, while 57% experienced significant family rejection. Still not good. In the face of extensive institutional discrimination, family acceptance has found to be one of the most protective factors against many of the threats to well-being, especially health risks like HIV and suicide.